Hello everyone, and welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars. I'm thrilled you're here with me because today we're circling a riddle that's been tugging at hearts and stirring up conversation. Anne's grandmother cried. What did she ask Kerem? That single line lands like a stone in still water, sending ripples of feeling and curiosity across everything we think we know. And this time, the story sits right in the world of Barry's Ardek and Elson Sangu, the duo whose chemistry has always felt both cinematic and startlingly real. Before we dive deeper, a little clarity for those who follow their lives on and off camera. Within their close circle, Ande is what some relatives affectionately call Elson, a private, tender nickname that belongs to kitchens where tea is always warm and laughter lingers after midnight. And Kerem? That's the playful way old friends and a few family members sometimes tease Barry's, a nod to roles and memories that stuck around even after the cameras stopped rolling. So when we say Ande and Kerem here, we're stepping into that intimate space where celebrity turns human, where two public figures become two people sitting across from a grandmother who knows them not as stars, but as children she watched grow up in different ways. The phrase itself has weight. Anne's grandmother cried. What did she ask Kerem? It suggests that something essential cracked open, something so tender that tears were the only language strong enough to carry it. We're not talking about gossip for gossip's sake, we're looking at a moment where time seems to hold its breath. Imagine the scene, a living room soaked in afternoon light, old photographs framing the walls, the quilts that hold a family's winters folded neatly on a chair. A woman whose hands have comforted many and scolded gently when needed sits with her back straight but her heart unguarded. Her eyes shine over memories no one else can see. And in front of her, Kerem, Barry's, sits with his shoulders squared and his gaze soft, knowing that this is not a place for performance, but for presence. What question could be powerful enough to bring tears to a grandmother's eyes? What thread would she pull, and why now? If you've watched Ande and Kerem from afar, you know that their bond is built on a rare combination of lightness and gravity. They tease, they laugh, they move through public storms and quiet private weather together. But that doesn't erase the past that each carries. The past is a loyal shadow. And sometimes, the past reaches out through an elder's voice. One possibility is the promise. The kind that lives inside our bones. Perhaps the grandmother, aware of time's narrowing path, asked Kerem if he will keep his word, the word that matters most to her. Will you love her when the cameras are gone? Will you protect her when applause turns to silence? The question doesn't need a long explanation, its truth sits in its simplicity. Because for grandmothers, promises are not contracts but prayers. And so her tears come as she asks, Kerem, will you take care of Ande? Not because she doubts him, but because love makes even the surest heart ask to hear the answer out loud. Another path leads to the weight of secrets. Families are kingdoms of unspoken things, and elders hold the keys. Maybe she carried a story for years, one she never told Ande out of a desire to keep her safe. But the day arrived when silence felt heavier than truth. In this version, her question is a lantern held out to Kerem before she leads him down a dark hallway. Are you ready to hear something you cannot unknow? She might test the ground with him first because she senses that he will not turn away, that he will carry the truth without letting it crush the person he loves. Tears come not just for the story itself, but for the trust it requires. There's a thread of gratitude we can't ignore either. Picture Ande in a moment of private struggle, the kind that doesn't make headlines, the kind that ambushes you at 5 a.m. Maybe Kerem was the one who stood beside her, unshowy and steady, when the world felt like glass. Perhaps he cancelled a project, turned down a glamorous trip, spent the week making soup and jokes, shielding her from the noise. In that case, the grandmother's question might be a question that is really an embrace. How can I ever thank you for what you did? And the tears, they're not sorrow, but relief that someone saw her granddaughter as a person before a persona. But we can't leave out the legacy question, the one that hums beneath all others. Grandmothers carry not only recipes and lullabies but the architecture of a family's spirit. Sometimes the question is a bridge to the future. Kerem, will you help keep our stories alive for Ande? Will you ensure that what made us us doesn't evaporate under studio lights or travel schedules? Maybe there's an heirloom, an old ring, a faded scarf, a tiny book textured by time, that has survived wars and weddings alike. Will you keep it safe for her, she might ask, as if the object were a tree root and Ande the garden it nourishes. Let's think, too, about the role of fear. Even the wisest elders feel it when someone they love steps toward a crossroad. Perhaps Ande stands on the edge of a decision that could reshape the life she knows, professional, personal, or both. And the grandmother turns to Kerem, not to sway him, but to steady herself. Tell me you see her, she might say without saying. Tell me you will listen even when you disagree. Tell me you will love the version of her that chooses herself. The question is disguised as advice or curiosity, but the tears reveal its real name, hope. And in a softer possibility, maybe the question is about Kerem himself. People often forget that the strong need support too. If he's been carrying a quiet weight, the kind the public never notices because smiles can be armor. An elder's tears may come from recognizing his fatigue. How do you keep going, Kerem? She might ask, not to burden him with more, but to remind him it's allowed to set burdens down. A grandmother can cry for you and still believe you are made of iron. Her tears are not doubts, but offerings of tenderness. Of course, when it comes to Ande and Kerem, their public image dances alongside their private lives. Maybe the grandmother's question draws a line between those worlds. How do you both stay yourselves when everyone thinks they know you? Will you promise to guard what is yours in a world that wants to borrow everything? This is the quiet reality of love under bright lights, the need to build a home that is a sanctuary, not a set. Let's not forget the way timing shapes everything. A question asked too early can bruise. A question asked too late can haunt. This, perhaps, is why she cried. She sensed that this was the exact moment to say what she had never said, to ask what she had always held back. Anne's grandmother cried. What did she ask Kerem? If we lean close to the silence between the words, we can almost hear it. Promise me, she may have said, as a hand reached across the small distance between them. Promise me you'll remember that love is a verb. Promise me you'll let her fly and still be there when she lands. Promise me you'll tell her the stories I forgot to tell. There's a scenario that feels distinctly like the two of them. Imagine a day off, finally. They've retreated to a family home by the sea. The windows are open to salt air. Anne's laugh is floating in from the kitchen. Kerem is helping fold laundry awkwardly, because he is good at many things and still a little clumsy with fitted sheets. The grandmother watches this domestic choreography and sees in it the kind of love that outlives glitter. She calls him over. Her voice trembles just a little. The question comes in a whisper so as not to break the spell in the next room. Will you make sure she keeps laughing like that? Tears slip down because sometimes laughter is the only proof we need that life is working. If they were facing a farewell, the question might become a blessing in disguise. When I'm gone, will you be her memory of me? Will you keep my presence alive in the house, in her stories, in small rituals like tea at impossible hours? This is how love survives distance and time. By being tended to, like a stubborn plant. Grandmothers cry when they hand over that tending, because it means their work is complete and must now be continued by another. And there's the challenging iteration, the one where history threatens to intrude. Suppose there is something in Kerem's past that still pricks at the grandmother's heart, not scandal, but wound. She might be brave enough to ask the question that tests forgiveness. Are you the man you are now, not the boy you were then? Tears come because time is both generous and ruthless, and admitting both truths at once is hard. The beauty is in the answer that isn't defensive, the answer that says, I have learned. The answer that proves learning is the most honorable transformation. At the core of all these possibilities is a fact we often overlook: questions can carry more love than answers. The grandmother's tears are proof that the ask itself is an act of devotion. She could have kept quiet. She could have trusted the odds. But she asked, and in asking, she stitched herself into the future she will not get to see, ensuring that a part of her lives on in promises, in secrets shared wisely, in legacies carried forward. Anne's grandmother cried. What did she ask Kerem? Today, as we walk through these doorways of possibility, we're reminded that even public lives have rooms no camera enters. In one of those rooms, a grandmother spoke to Kerem with the soft authority of someone who has seen empires rise and fall in her own home. She cried because love makes us brave. She cried because questions make us honest. And whether her words were about vows, truths, gratitude, heritage, or healing, they were offered like a lantern against the dark. If this mystery has pulled at you the way it has pulled at me, let it be a mirror. Ask yourself what you would ask if you had one chance, one breath, one look across the room at the person holding the heart of someone you love. Ande and Kerem may be names you read in headlines, but in this story, they are simply two people learning how to be gentle with each other's histories. If you're new to Secrets Behind the Stars, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what we bring next. We love exploring the stories that move us, the quiet moments that leave loud echoes, and the way real emotion hides in plain sight. If this touched you, hit the like button. Share it with someone who believes that words matter. And tell me in the comments, what do you think Grandma asked Kerem? Which possibility feels true to you? Was it a promise, a secret, a blessing, or something we haven't even considered yet? Your thoughts don't just add to the conversation. They help us build the next one. Until then, hold space for the questions that keep you human, and for the tears that mean love has spoken. We'll see you next time, right here on Secrets Behind the Stars.